Who leads Illini men's basketball in scoring next year? It's Friday. Let's have some fun.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On, where I continue to provide you coverage daily. That's right, every single day of the orange and blue, and everything you find here is absolutely free. Only thing I ask for in return is, if you don't mind, just hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel, as it is my goal to hit 3,500 subs on YouTube at least before we kick off for that football season on August 29th against Western Illinois. More on that a little bit later. What I wanted to start talking about today was a new projected points per game came out. It was a list by, Bart Torvik, a guy who, he releases, he's an analytics type of guy. And so it's Friday, I figured we'd have a little bit of fun, because what he did is he released a list of, I believe it was top 30 scorers, projected points per game leaders next season. And what surprised me was the leading scorer that he had picked for the Illini. And I'll give you guys a second to figure it out. But of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can probably see it on the banner right there. But that's right. It's Tomislav Ivišić. He has Tommy averaging 16.8 points per game for the Illini next year. And again, according to him, that would be leading the Illini. And it just, now that I think about it, I don't know if it should have caught me off guard. I don't know how realistic it is. Tommy did average 13 points per game last year. I do think that we know that this Illinois offense is going to be very similar to what it's looked like in years past. And by that, I mean there's going to be a lot of guys scoring points. But is it consolidated between a couple of guys like we had a couple of seasons ago, where we had Terrence Shannon Jr. and Marcus Damask both averaging almost 20 points per game together? Or is it going to be a little bit more spread out like last year? You had Ivišić averaging, I believe it was 15 points per game, but then you also had Tommy average 13. Will Riley was averaging 12.6, Kylan Boswell 12.3, and Trey White 10.5. So what I wanted to do was just I took a look at the roster that we have upcoming this next season. And just, it's early, it's summer, right? This is the way too early predictions, and I'm actually going to do a full episode on this very soon. But I wanted to think to myself who I think is going to lead the Illini in scoring next year. If I had to decide right now, I'll be honest, I thought this was kind of clear cut, and I've referenced this in previous episodes. To me, I think you lose a guy like Ivišić and Will Riley to the NBA draft, right? Those are clearly your two most gifted scorers. But in their place, when you talk about the wing position, you bring in Andrej Stojaković, a guy who averaged himself 17.9 points per game last year, shooting 42.7% from the field, and shot 31.8% from three-point land. Now, granted, that one could be a little bit higher. And so for me, let's address Tommy first. Tommy does so many things for this Illinois team. I never really considered him the type to be the go-to scorer. And let me know in the comments if you think I'm mistaken with that thought process. Tommy is the facilitator. Even at the end of the season last year, when Kasparis was so clearly struggling. Now, whether it was injury or whether it was something else, clearly he wasn't the same Kasparis that he was in the first half of the season. But we were able to continue to have the offense humming, in particular the last month, because of three guys. Talking about Kylan Boswell, talking about Will Riley, and you're talking about Tomislav Ivišić. Now, Will was clearly the guy who I think became kind of the go-to player. He became the go-to scorer. But a lot of that had to do with the back and forth between Tommy and Will. Will would pass Tommy the ball at the top of the key, cut to the rim, and Tommy would feed him the rock for a very easy layup. That's simple play. The way I just described is literally how it happened. Would occur multiple times per game at the end of the year. So Tommy, to me, he has so much other responsibilities when it comes to this Illini basketball team. We know he's essentially the quarterback of the defense. If you're really watching closely, he's one of the more verbal guys. He's letting guys know where they need to be. And on offense, I think if you make Tommy the focus point, that might all of a sudden weaken his other areas where I think are genuine strengths. Sure, he can shoot. He was one of our best three-point shooters last year. We know he's got a little touch around the rim, but I think that just more, he's not a pure scorer. He's just a pure all-around good basketball player. In my opinion, the best center in the league next year. Tommy, 16 points per game, I guess if you compare it to the year prior, where he averaged 13, 16.4 is not too far-fetched. And maybe that does carry the team. But I have to say, even as I think this out, to me, the answer has to be Stojaković. Stojaković is 17.9 points per game. Granted, they were for a very bad Cal team. And so this is not one of those where I'm saying, hey, Tommy increased from 13 to 16.4. So I think Stojaković might go from 17.9 to 20. In fact, I think it might actually be the opposite. I think there's a chance that Stojakovic's averages come down next year. But again, it's because of the way this team is put together. Colin Boswell, I think I read for the last month, averaged 17 plus points per game himself. He obviously took a step up at the end of the season, and we're hoping some of that carryovers to this year. I think there's a very legit chance, and I want to hear what you guys thought. And actually, now that I think about it, even Colin Boswell can all be in that 14, 15, 16, 17 points per game. Let me narrow that down a bit. I think there's a chance that those three guys could each average 15 points per game just by themselves. We saw a glimpse of what Kylan looked like at the end of the year. With Tomislav, you essentially just asked Stojaković, that would actually be him coming down a little bit. Now, just because I think his average comes down does not mean that I don't think he as a player gets better. I mentioned to you his percentages. That Cal team last year was bad. They were very bad. When I was looking at tape of Stojaković, just to better acclimate myself with what kind of player that we're getting, a guy who I have talked about, going to be one of our better players next year, team was horrendous. And because I can see that, of course, opposing coaches can see that. And they had him locked in on defense. And that's where I think the field goal percentages come in. 42.7% from a wing, not ideal. 31.8% from three-point line, definitely not ideal. But despite his averages coming down, I think there's a very good chance that both of those percentages go up. The way our offense is featured, I think Andrej, combined with other offensive threats at the speed of which we play, is going to set him up for a lot more easier baskets. And whether that is in the Will Riley role from last year, give and go with Tomislav Ivišić, where he can get layups, or quite simply just the fact that the defense will have other people they need to worry about. And so Andrej's shots are going to be more wide open shots than he got last year. I think those averages ultimately do go up, even if the scoring comes down. I think it's probably between those two. As much as I talked about Kylan the last couple of days, I've already had another segment dedicated to him earlier this week, and I'm hyping him up now. I think he's in for a big year, but I don't think he's going to be your leading scorer next year. You guys already know when I do the My Guy flag episode for the basketball season, who I'm going to pick, it's no secret. Every dayer's in here know. It's going to be Mihailo Petrovic. He's also another guy who I think is a much better scorer than people realize. But I more so expect low double digits. I don't think he's going to be a leading scorer on this basketball team. So I guess ultimately what I'm trying that he had Tomislav Ivišić as a high score for the Illini. I was like, no. But realistically, I think it's probably between him and Andrej Stojaković. But I think it's important to note that we are going to have a lot better scores around compared to last year. We had Riley, we had Kasparis. Unfortunately, we could not get them both going at the same time. But I think Petrovic is going to be a very good supplemental scorer this year. Again, I talked about this earlier this week. I don't know what the answer is going to be at the power forward spot. Whether it's Ben Hammerkaus, Zvonimir Ivišić is obviously a big wild card. He's had games where he's put on 27 points against top SEC schools. Can he get to double digits? I think he can. Again, we know this team is going to be an offensive powerhouse. It's a simple matter of, on Friday, we try to decide, okay, 4 months in advance, who do we think is going to lead the team in scoring? Right now, my answer, I'm going to stick with Stojaković. I just think all the signs are there, and that's kind of one of the reasons that you brought him on, to be the guy, the main focus. As summer winds down, there's something nice about getting back into it. Makes it easy to set yourself up for the season ahead. From bedding and linens to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair is your one-stop shop to refresh your home. We bought a brand new ice maker. There was no real appropriate spot to put it in my kitchen, so we put a table, and it looks like it's the perfect addition to my new home. This is the perfect time to get any home ready, whether that's organizing, upgrading a workspace, or get organized, refreshed, and back to routine for way less. Head to Wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's .com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And welcome back. Breaking news, Illini fans really love to hear about basketball recruits. I did that segment yesterday on Cameron Holmes visiting Illinois on September 12th. And man, I got flooded with emails and DMs asking me what I knew about this recruitment. And so obviously, if you were paying attention on Tuesday, it was also announced another kid has listed Illinois in his final 5, I think it was, maybe 5 or 6. And I figured I should also kind of give a scouting report on him because we have a recruiting update. And this is obviously the type of content you guys are craving. And basically, let's talk about his. I think his name's Eliou Diem. Again, I apologize if I screwed up that name. I'm so incredibly bad with names. He's a 6'10", 4-star big man out of Bella Vista Prep in Arizona by way of Senegal. He's trimmed his list to 6 schools. And yeah, as I mentioned, Illinois is on it. But I want to be very upfront here. I did check in with some people. This isn't one where I think I'm going to sit here in front of the camera and tell you that I think Illinois is a favorite or that he's champagne bound. He's a talented prospect, but I just don't think ultimately it's one that Illinois is going to take that serious. But he is a talented prospect. And if we're going to have our finger on the pulse of Illini basketball recruiting right here on Locked On Illini, well, then I'm going to sit here and give you at least a scouting report based on what I've seen. I would have done this yesterday, but because I was busy scouting Cameron in order to get this episode out for you today, you guys know I'm not trying to halfway my way through things when it comes to my audience. You guys give me the time of day every single day, and I feel like you could tell if all of a sudden I wasn't giving my full fourth effort. So yesterday I scouted Cameron. Today I'm going to scout Eliou, and then we'll kind of move on from there. So Let's start with this story. Diem is originally from Senegal and only came to the U.S. in 2023. He first landed at Accelerated Prep in Denver before he transferred to Bella Vista in Arizona. Both programs known for playing a brutal national schedule. Since making the move, his stock has climbed steadily, depending on which ranking you check. He's somewhere between a top 50 to top 150 recruit nationally. I think Rivals had him as the number 11 center in the class of 2026. In the grind session, arguably considered the toughest high school basketball circuit, he was a force, averaging almost 14 points and 12 rebounds and just above 2 blocks per game. And remember, those numbers come up against genuinely elite competition. Physically, he's 6'10", anywhere from 210 to 220 pounds, still with plenty of room to add muscle. He's built like a modern big man. Long arms, good mobility, not super heavy-footed. Defensively, he looks like he's got elite rim protection instincts. This isn't just a tall guy who blocks shots. He times them. He avoids fouling unnecessarily, and he can change shots with simply getting his hand on the ball. What's interesting is he's not just stuck in the paint defensively. He can hedge out on pick and rolls. He can slide with guards with a couple steps, and that versatility is exactly what today's coaches want in a big, especially one with a motor that proves that because he's going after every single rebound. Talking about his offensive game a little bit, it's a little bit more advanced than when you think of a raw shot blocker. He's got a nice face-up game, comfortable hitting from the mid-range jumper, maybe 12, 17 feet, I think I saw on tape. Mechanics look smooth, and scouts think the range will extend out to three-point land once he makes it to college. He can put the ball on the floor, dribble or two, attack slower bigs, which makes him dangerous in those pick-and-pop or high-post situations. In the post, he shows flashes, soft touch over his left shoulder, a decent footwork, but like more high school bigs, he's still figuring out how to score consistently against length and physicality. What I do like from the reports that I've been reading is he seems to be very unselfish. He runs the floor, he sets solid screens, and he plays within the flow of the offense. That's the kind of the buy-in that gets you on the floor early in college and makes you well liked by whatever coaching staff that you ultimately decide to commit to. One of the biggest things that jump out in every single scouting report was, again, that motor and his approach to the game. He's not a guy who takes a day off. He lives at the gym. He watches film at night and approaches basketball with gratitude for where this game has taken him in his life. He's been described as locked in and relentless, which is not a trait that you can teach. He also seems to have, as I mentioned, a very high basketball IQ. He knows where to be. He anticipates plays and has that knack for finding the ball off the glass. So what does this recruitment picture look like? Illinois, as I mentioned, was announced in the final 6, along with Mississippi State, Syracuse, UNLV, Wake Forest, and West Virginia. He's already visited Wake Forest, and he's got visits planned for UNLV, West Virginia, and Mississippi. I believe that he's doing that this fall. Illinois offered him this past summer after watching his stock jump at camps like Pangos All-American and the NBPA Top 100. So why is Illinois interested? Well, watching his tape, you can see that he would fit pretty well in Brad Underwood's system. Someone who can defend, shoot, and handle in space. And by 2026, the Illini front court is going to look very different, with some of the current bigs possibly moving on to the NBA or even graduating. That said, I don't get the sense, and I'm being honest with you, I don't get the sense that Illinois is too locked in on this particular commitment. I don't know if they're pushing all in on this one. They might with other 2026 targets. They clearly like him, don't get me wrong, and I think he likes the idea of what Illinois offers. But there are other schools in his final list that are let's just say, rolling out the red carpet in a big way. Bottom line is, Diem is a name worth knowing. Easy for me to say, I can't pronounce it correctly. But even if he doesn't end up in Champaign, I think he's the type of big man we'll probably see on TV a lot in the next few years. And when we hear the name, we're like, oh yeah, I do kind of remember us recruiting him. He's modern, he's very skilled, and has that modern motor, that coaches love. For Illinois, the recruitment seems kind of more, hey, we're in it if it works type of situation, and not one that they're going to consider structuring their class around. Still, the fact that a top international talent who's playing elite prep basketball in the United States and is considering the Illini, there's nothing bad about that. In fact, that's a good sign of how the staff's reputation with versatile bigs continues to grow. Again, I'll keep an eye on his visits. I'll find out if Illinois does indeed make a push. And of course, if anything changes in his recruitment, I'm going to have it for you right here on Locked On Illini. You let me know what you think of his tape. Have you watched him? Do any of you know how to actually say his name? I probably should have figured that out before I started recording. I'm curious on your guys' thoughts. We'll have more right after this. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Caleb Williams, I see you. Crown your champion in August. That's right. Super Bears, Super Bowls. Or parlay your division winner, dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. And welcome back. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because if you're not, why not? The content will only continue to go up on this channel, especially now that the dog days of summer are gone. There's no me scrummaging and trying to figure out what you guys want to hear me talk about for 30 minutes. Football season's right around the corner. Basketball season, of course, is always just seemingly just a couple months away. We got a lot to talk about right here on Locked On Illini. So the only way you can guarantee yourself not miss anything is if you are subscribed. So I did want to mention before I let you go that FanDuel has, this is the first I've seen it, at least. FanDuel, obviously a friend of the show, has released a line for the Western Illinois game on August 29th. The line has Illinois as minus 45.5 favorites, and the over-under listed at 61.5. Now, look, I know Western Illinois is a very bad football team. And granted, that's an FCS team. But 45.5 points per game, to me, that seems like a lot. Now, granted, I'll be honest, I'm not at all the guy you should follow for gambling advice, especially if you take a look at what my account looks like. But the way I see that first game going is that we all know the real season starts week 2 against Duke in Durham. And once Illinois, to me, gets up 3-4 touchdowns, and I'm telling you, I genuinely believe it could be 28-0 in the second quarter. Once that happens, I really think Brett takes his foot off the gas. And essentially, that's when you're going to see a lot of the second and third stringers in the ball game at that point. Why? You don't want to give any tape to Duke. Duke is a very good football team, and you know that they're going to be watching. And it's a very important game that you need to absolutely win. And the less you give Duke to prepare for, the more you can surprise them in that week 2 matchup. I think I would be surprised if Luke Altmyers takes a single snap in the second half. I would be surprised if you see any of the running backs get more than 15 carries. I do think that maybe one of the younger wide receivers is going to be thrown at a lot. Try to get him some burn, try to get him some confidence, because obviously we're going to be playing more elite competition later. But 45.5 points per game, spread seems a little drastic to me. And not that I'm worried about this game in any sort of way. I think it's going to be a comfortable victory. But with the over-under at 61.5, you're essentially thinking, what, 53-9 final score? 52-9 final score. I would be shocked if Illinois or Western Illinois gets into double digits. Okay, I'll grant you that, unless you're talking about like a fluke touchdown. If they score 2 touchdowns, legitimate touchdowns, on August 29th, we have something to be concerned about. That should not happen. But if it's a fluke, sometimes that just happens. The ball bounces in an awkward way. The game is already in hand, and obviously the key of that first week is going to be nobody get hurt. Please, nobody get hurt. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Mine is 45.5. Would you take that? Have you already taken that? 61.5? I don't know. I just don't think Illinois is going to show enough. It's going to become a very cookie cutter type of playbook in the second half. Actually, you know what? I'm saying that, but I think I also remember saying that last year in game 1. I don't recall off the top of my head who we played, but I said that we'd put the brakes on once we got far ahead early in the game, but Illinois did not do that last year. So who knows? I might be changing my mind mid-segment. Also wanted to give a proper shout out to Max Herendeen, who, as of this recording, just got into the round of 16 after defeating the number 1 ranked amateur player, Jackson Koiven, 3-2. I don't have the results of what happened in the afternoon game, round of 16 game, as of this recording. But again, I wanted to shout out the other sports when it comes to Illini athletics. We got love for everybody here at Locked On Illini. That's going to just about wrap it up for this edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Look, we just got finished talking about Illinois versus Western Illinois. If you're interested in winning free tickets to the game, that's right, for you and one other, all you have to do is join the Talk Illini Discord. The link should be in the description. It's very easy. I'm going to be doing giveaways all season long to each and every game on the football schedule this year. So again, there's no reason not to be subscribed. There's no reason to miss any sort of content on this channel. Not only will you get fantastic Illini coverage, but you might just win yourself a chance to watch what hopefully is going to be a very good football team in person. That's going to wrap it up for today. I hope you all enjoy your weekend. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.